What's it like to work as a Photopass photographer at Epcot? Well, here's what a day for me was typically like. So, what's a typical day working at one of the Disney parks? Well, let me walk you through a typical day as a Photopass photographer at Epcot for me, giving you kind of an idea of what my day was like, how it started, how it ended, and hopefully share a few interesting tidbits from behind the scenes. For us at Epcot, of course, the day starts off getting to work, which means driving your car for me, parking at the Epcot Cast parking lot. The Epcot Cast lot is actually a fairly large parking lot that is hiding behind Test Track Mexico and China over on the side of the park. It actually shares the parking lot with the Cast Medical Services building, which is essentially a doctor's clinic for cast members if they get hurt at work or if they need a doctor. It's kind of in the back of the parking lot. We would park up towards the front of it, right by the Cast Services building. Yes, Cast Medical Services, Cast Services. It gets confusing sometimes. After you park, you walk up to the Cast Services building and your first stop is security. This is true of any cast entry, really any entry into the park. You're going to have to go through security. You would actually hold up your cast ID. If you did not have a cast ID card, you were going to run into issues. Have to have your cast ID to show that you've got a legitimate reason for going through the cast entrance. If, for some reason, you didn't have your ID and you had a shift scheduled, security was going to have to call your manager. They were going to have to get special clearance and approval. You were going to have to prove who you were with other ID, and it could be kind of a pain. And if you did it very often, you were going to get written up for it. So you definitely didn't want to do that. So you'd show your ID. You'd also have to show your lunch or any other bags you brought just to make sure you're not bringing anything in, just kind of like really up front. Not always as thorough as they did with guests. They did tend to trust their cast members more. After that, it's walking through the Cast Services building, which is a large building with a whole lot of stuff in it. On the right side, you would have row upon row upon row of lockers and locker rooms for people to change clothes if they didn't want to wear their costumes or if they weren't allowed to wear their costumes out. That was some cast. Places for them to change, places for them to keep their things, and to lock it up. On the left side was the wardrobe. That's where they had all the costuming and everything you needed. If I needed a new belt, for example, I could just check in there and get a new belt or a new shirt. With Photopass, they didn't always have everything that we needed, but they did have some of our costume pieces. A little bit past that, you would have some more offices. You had the Disney Learning Center that was there that had computers available for people to use, had a small library in it with books and training classes and various things like that. Company D was also in the building. This is the cast store where you could buy a name tag holder, water bottles, pins, park tickets, and various other little trinkets and things, as well as some very useful items. And then right before you exited the building, there was another small group of computers. As I recall, there were actually two places in the building that had these computers. These were special ones that ran a program called CDS, Cast Deployment System. And this is where cast members could clock in, clock out, get their assignments for work, and sometimes send other messages to managers and things like that. Basically, it was our clocking in and assignment system. As a Photopass photographer, I generally did not use these, except sometimes on the way out. They allowed us to clock out from them, but we were not supposed to clock in. For clocking in, we had to get to our base. In order to get to the base, though, you had to walk out of the building. If you walked out, there was actually a big bus stop there. Epcot has something that's actually unique to all the Disney parks. They have a bus system that actually runs all the way around the park. It travels the whole backside of the World Showcase, stops at almost every single one of the World Pavilions, and actually goes all the way around to the other side of Future World. So you can be back behind the Living Seas, and there's actually bus stops back there. So if you didn't want to walk, you could actually ride the bus all the way around. Although I found in my own experience that walking was usually faster than the bus because it could take 20 minutes for that bus to arrive sometimes. In any case, to get to our base, though, I didn't need the bus. Because if you walked out of the back of the building and you made a left turn, there was a little parking lot and a small street there, and then there was the entertainment building. This building had all sorts of stuff in it. It said Epcot Entertainment. They had, it looked like floats and frameworks and show sets and all sorts of different things going on in there. That was most of the building, but we went over into one side, walked in past some offices, went upstairs into some other offices, and that was our Photopass space. This is where our equipment was, all of our camera gear, our coordinators who would take care of the equipment as well as let us know where we were going. Our managers were all based there. A few lockers in there for us to keep our lunch if we wanted to. And there was a break room in the building as well. We'd head up there, check in, let them know we were there, start to get ourselves ready, and as soon as our time hit, we could then clock in. We weren't allowed to do anything official until we actually clocked in. So no getting any gear, no doing anything that could be considered work. As soon as that clock hit, there was usually a line of us, we'd clock in, and depending upon what we were doing, we would then get our assignments. If we were working in World Showcase, we were typically with a character or doing a specific assignment like Rover, at which point the coordinator would tell us what we were going to do, and through the computer system, he would manually assign us that job. So if I was working in China with Mulan that day and then rovering at the end of the day, that was a specific spot, that's what I was doing for the day. If, however, we were assigned to Future World, well then CDS actually would randomly, specifically, computer-orientedly, assign us what we were going to do. It would tell us if we were going to go to the view for a little while, or character spot, or test track, or the entrance to the park, or the backside of Spaceship Earth, and it would actually control our whole entire schedule for the day. So anytime we were due for a break, we would have somebody who would come up, give us a slip of paper that CDS had printed off, telling us we were going on break from what time to what time, and we would then head out to break, have our break wherever we were at, and then at the end of break, we'd have to go to another computer with CDS, clock back in, tell it to get assignment, and it would actually print out a slip that would tell us where we were going and who we were going to bump out for their break. And we would walk out to them and hand them the slip and say, hey, you're going on break. It would control where we were going, whether we were inside or outside or what we were doing. CDS was great in that way, but at the same time, I really liked having one spot I was at all day, working with specific characters or something. You had a better chance to build up relationships. That's what we did the old days. We didn't use CDS for the first couple years. We gradually added it on, and I still preferred not using it. But CDS is what most people at Disney use, so you had to get used to it. So after you got your assignment, well, off you went. I tended to get assigned to China and Mexico a lot. Germany, United Kingdom, Morocco, all of these had characters that we would work with. If we were working with them, we would usually take our lunch with us and we could leave it in the entertainment break room, usually. Or there were certain spots that we knew we could leave our lunches safely. So if I was going any place but China or Mexico, I would take my lunch with me. And it was usually faster for me to walk through the park with my lunch bag, my camera gear, and depending upon what I was doing, maybe a tripod if I was going to be shooting in the evening. I'd walk through the park, head to where I was going to be based, drop off my lunch, and then go to work. If I was in Future World, my lunch would go with me wherever I went. If I was in Character Spot, there were some lockers that was actually in an old kitchen that was no longer in use in Interventions, right by a stairway that went down. So we would use those lockers. I think they were put there just for us. It was weird walking into this old, dusty, unused kitchen, and there's this wall of lockers. If we were at the View, which is right under Spaceship Earth, we had a storage room. We could drop our lunch off in there. If we were over at Test Track, we had a storage closet. We put our lunch in there. So we had different places we could store our lunch, knowing that if you're in Future World, you're going to be bouncing all over the place. Our schedules for the day would flex depending upon what we were doing. Typically, the shortest shift you were going to get was 6 hours, and most of us worked 8 to 10. As far as breaks go, Disney was actually pretty generous with breaks. If you had a shift that was over 4 hours long, you were going to get a 15-minute break. If it was 6 hours or more, you were going to get a 30-minute break. 7.5, somewhere in there, you would get a 30 and a 15. If you were over 8, then you would get a 30-minute and 2 15s. If you had a 10-hour shift, well, then they started adding on a 30-minute break every 2 or 3 hours. So if you had a long shift, you were still going to get a pretty good number of breaks. And what was really nice is when we would occasionally get the really long shifts, and we would get a generous manager who'd say, tell you what, do you want to take your 2:30s back to back? nap time. So we did do that occasionally. After that, it was basically getting settled into where we were at, talking to our characters if we were going to work with characters that day. And my typical routine was, if I didn't know them, hey, I'm George, I'm here to work with you today. Do you have anything special I need to know about your routine? Is there anything you want me to know? Anything you want me to do to help your day? What can I do to make your day better and help this make the best day possible? I'm very happy to interact with you and talk and help lead if you want, or I can stand back and be quiet and do nothing if you would like. What do you prefer? One of the things that a lot of characters really liked was if we were fast shooting, because we had some very slow photographers. And I was like, you don't have to worry about me at all. I will shoot while you're doing your stuff. You don't need to worry about if I'm shooting or not. I'll cover it. When it comes time for me to pose the people and shoot, you pose them, and it's just bang, bang, and I'm done. We like to hit it quick and fast so that way we didn't have people waiting. Every now and then you get a photographer and they would go,
okay, everybody, let's smile. 1, 2.
And in the time they've done that, I've already shot 4 pictures. And that would be with my camera too, and then a couple with the guest cameras. I would be done, because you don't do that. I loved working with the characters and staying with them all day because it allowed you to build a routine, a rapport. You could just get used to it and go. One of the things that was really nice working in Mexico and China a lot was I got to know my characters real well. So I could just show up, hey, it's me, and they go, awesome, know exactly how today is going to go. It's going to be a good day, you're here. That was pretty much our routine. You know, we come in, we're ready to go, we see who we're working with, and we know them, and off we go. And time to shoot pictures. Lots of pictures. On a typical day, if I was shooting with a character, I would probably shoot somewhere around 1,000 photos. Unless I was over at Character Spot. Then that number could very easily push 2 and sometimes even 3,000 photos a day, because they were just moving people through so quick. It's one of the reasons I really liked World Showcase characters much more than Character Spot. Character Spot pushed them through in a hurry. World Showcase, let's take a little bit more time and talk to the guests. Yeah, I guess I still probably shot about 1,500 photos out at World Showcase or more. But yes, nowhere near as pushed as Character Spot was at the time. Oh, I don't think there were too many of us like Character Spot. It was just rough. At the end of your shift, you would have somebody come up to you with a slip if you were in Future World that would say, bump out, end of day. At that point, you got to grab your stuff and start walking all the way across the park back to your base. It was still quicker than taking the bus. If we were on World Showcase, we knew what our schedule was for the whole day because our positions had all been assigned, our break times were pre-assigned. We actually would carry around a little slip of paper in our pocket that would say, shoot this at this time, this character at this time, break here, shoot this character at this time, break here, shoot this location another time, rover around the World Showcase a little bit at this point. So everything was scheduled for us, so we knew what time we were done. For most of World Showcase, that actually meant that our end of day actually came at about the point when illuminations would start. I would often end up at one of the pavilions with a tripod and shooting pictures at night up until illuminations. And once illuminations started, then it was take the camera down, pack up the tripod, and get ready to head all the way back to base. It was still oftentimes faster to walk through the park than to go backstage in the bus. You learned how to cut through the crowds and go through the very backs of them while watching illuminations. And it allowed me to watch illuminations probably 100, 200 times while I worked. I saw that show a lot. Carrying your gear through the dark, through the crowd, trying to get all the way back out. You wanted to get there before illuminations was done. The crowds could get very messy once it was finished. Heading back up into your base, then backstage, handing in all of your gear. The equipment manager would look over everything, make sure it was all good to go, cleaned up, ready to go, that you had everything, that you weren't leaving with batteries in your pockets, which I did every now and then. Oops. And then you'd clock out from CDS and head on out. So that was a pretty typical day working at Epcot for me. A lot of fun. And yeah, I still miss it a bunch. Got any questions or comments? I'd love to hear them. Is it similar or different to something you've done? I would love to hear that too. Please don't forget to leave your comments in the comments below. Yeah, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Don't forget to hit the like button. Share the video too. I know there's a lot of Disney people out there who wonder what it's like. Well, let them know. Hit the share button and share it on your social media and forums and other places like that. Don't forget to check the description as well. Tons of information there. Lots of different fan pages and other stuff. Thank you as well to my YouTube members and to my patrons for their financial support. I couldn't do what I do without them. There's a number of other perks that they get as well. If you want to know more about the perks and the benefits, check the description below, check the link to Patreon, or check the join button. Thank you so incredibly much for watching, and God bless. Well, let me walk you through a day that was for me typical at Epcot as a Photopass. It actually shares the parking lot with the nope. Not always as thorough as they did with guests, because they trended. Yeah, they trended. Now, for Photopass, our base was... I tended to get to... Or there were certain spots that we knew we could leave our lunches safely. Don't know who that is. It looks like a spam call. Yay. My lunch would kind of go with me wherever I went. Seriously. Stop. Hey. If you'd like to know about my merchandise, fan pages, and more, be sure to check the description below. If you'd like to know whenever I've got a new video posted, well, make sure you hit that button right up there and subscribe. If you'd like to watch another one of my videos, I've got a great one for you right here. And if you'd like to be like these wonderful people here and support me financially on Patreon, well, make sure you check the link right there. There's even some extra perks for them. Thank you so much, and God bless.